I was born on the day that Forest won the league with a 0-0 draw at Coventry, so I couldn't really support anyone else, could I?
Hello. Welcome to the Absolute Football Podcast. We're here with another of our All About episodes. It's all about Nottingham Forest tonight. As you can see by the man below in the jumper, who I will introduce for. I don't think I've ever introduced you, Josh, on the podcast. This is a podcast first, so I feel a little bit under pressure with your intro. So my super friend, in his Brian Clough jumper is here. Here he is, Josh. How are you, my friend?
I'm here. There's nothing to fear except fear itself and grizzly bears, because they'll tear your face right off. But I'm doing very well. I think you're the first person to introduce me on this podcast ever. I think
you might be right. I think we should have saved that for the anniversary, shouldn't we? But we've given it away for free early.
It feels nice. It feels nice to be part of it instead of leading it. It's lovely, and it's such safe hands that it's being delivered in.
There we go. Safe hands until you see me drive it off the road, and then it's too late. It's too late by then. The accident will have been caused. But of course, we're here with a very special guest indeed. We're here to talk about Nottingham Forest, so we need to have somebody who knows a lot about Nottingham Forest. So we've invited on the fantastic Mikey from the Garibaldi Red Podcast. Mikey, how are you? Thank you for joining us, first of all. How are you doing?
Brilliant. Yeah, great. Thanks. Nice to meet you, Sam. Nice to meet you, Josh. So the guy that you wanted on who knows a lot about Forest, was he not available then? So you had to kind
of Josh. That's why Josh put his jumper on, just in case. That's our backup. So
because I have to jump in. But did I notice that you chaps are up for an award nomination at the moment?
We are.
I see that.
Indeed, at 2, I think, actually. So I found out yesterday, which is incredible, really. I'm sure we'll talk about how the podcast has significantly changed since we got promoted, of course. But it's just a testament, I think, to Matt, who runs it, and the interest that Forest now have, now that we're a Premier League team. But I was delighted. It's brilliant. It's just a bit of ratification for what we do. So, yeah, brilliant news.
Yeah, definitely. It's amazing. As you said, super exciting and gratification of all the hard work you guys have been putting in. Fantastic podcast. So we watched a few. So do go and check out the Garibaldi Red Podcast after you watch this one, of course. Let's stick with us now and then go and have a look at their back catalogue for sure. But so Mikey, in general, how are you? How's your week been? How are you enjoying the football so far this season?
Yeah, really good. Thanks. It's been a good week. It's I'd like to say I'm enjoying the back of the summer, but we've not really had a summer, have we, to be honest with you? But I've been abroad a couple of times, got a bit of sun, and obviously chilled out since the back end of last season, which for every Forest fan was stress beyond belief. So the fact that we stayed up, we could all breathe. I've gone away, I've had a bit of sun, come back last couple of weeks, back to work, back into the swing of the season. I think Forest have started okay. But yeah, I'm doing really well. I'm far more, not that I was negative last season, but we knew it was going to be a real uphill struggle, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But this season, and it might be to do with who's come up, it feels as if we've got a really good chance of staying up. But I'm sure we'll explore that as we go through this. But yeah, I'm great. Thanks, Sam.
We certainly will. Yeah, we know about the perils of that relegation last year. We have Kira on our podcast, who's an Everton fan and who had a very, very nervy. I think she went one game further than you went last season in terms of her trepidation, that's for sure. But yeah, all's well that ends well, and you're here with us in the Premier League again. So very exciting. So I suppose before we get on to this season and everything else, just to find out a bit more about you and your love for Nottingham Forest, where did it all begin for you with Nottingham Forest?
Wow. Well, I'm a Nottingham boy. I was actually born, and this is the God's honest truth. I was born on the day that Forest won the league with a 0-0 draw at Coventry, so I couldn't really support anyone else, could I? Being from Nottingham. No. So yeah, I think when I was at school back in the 90s under Clough, they used to do a lot of coaching around the Nottingham area, and they used to bring the players to the school. And I remember. They used to, taking me back now. They used to put all the cones out in the playground when I was at juniors as well. We used to run around the cones, used to time us. Then we used to do it with a ball and timers. And I remember, I think I finished near the top. And I remember going home thinking, not only am I going to support Forest, I'm going to play for him because I'm that good. But to be honest with you, that never worked out. And funnily enough, that day was actually they came a day later than what they said they would. They were supposed to come on the Monday, but they didn't. They came on the Tuesday, and the reason they didn't come on the Monday is because Forest had been stuffed on telly on the Sunday, and Clough basically banned all community work and said everybody's coming into training, all the ages, and basically just minced them on the training pitch on Monday. So we had a load of players turn up at our school on the Tuesday, absolutely knackered. So I'm not surprised they came top of that, because none of them could run because they were absolutely beasted from Clough. But yeah, that's kind of where my love for Forest came. And when you're old enough to get a bit of pocket money and you want to know what to spend it on, we were a Premier League team at the time, struggling. I'll be honest with you, but we were a Premier League team at the time. Well, that wasn't Premier League, you know what I mean, First Division.
Mm-hmm. First Division,
so
yeah.
Used to go watch them with school. We used to do day trips out there. Trying to remember some of my first games. Yeah, we were struggling, but the love for Forest is ingrained in me and my family, as it is for a lot of people around here. And then, weirdly enough, just as you become an adolescent and you go to college and you go to uni, we became absolute rubbish. So those 20 years out of the Premier League, which included three years scrapping around in League One, was where my kind of real love for the club came, because it's nothing better than seeing your club struggling and come out of the wilderness and build itself up, because you can always hark back to, do you know what, I was there when we were a bit crap, if I'm honest with you. When we were a bit rubbish.
I did my time, yeah.
Did my time, and now this is why I'm loving it right now. So yeah, Forest fan as a kid, went to the games, start following them when I was at uni, properly when you get a bit of money. And then just ever since, mainly in the Championship. And these last couple of years have been probably the best years of my life supporting Forest. And I think if you asked anybody, certainly of around my age, they'd say the same. So yeah, it's ingrained in me, unfortunately, Sam. I can't change it now. I love to support, I don't know, Man City. It was dead easy, but unfortunately I can't.
This is it. You wouldn't want to. You want the struggles and the fun. This is it. It's no fun winning all the time, is there, Josh? No fun at all. It's not the way to go. But of course, the rise of Nottingham Forest has matched, the rise of the podcast as well. The Garibaldi Red Podcast, which is going from strength to strength, of course, and as you said about the awards and everything else like that. So I mean, where did all the podcasting begin for you and the Garibaldi Reds?
Yeah, interesting one. So I first started a couple of years ago on it when who was managing us? It was maybe about 3 years ago. I think my first episode was we just got beat 5-1 in the cup at Swansea, and Steve Cooper was Swansea manager. So how strange is that? And that was the first episode I was on, and I remember I spent. You should listen to it actually if you want to see how not to do a podcast. I spent the first 10 minutes slating them, basically saying, he's not good enough, he's not good enough. As the podcast has grown, I've grown personally, and so has everybody else, to be a little bit more measured with their analytical thoughts on the game. But at that time, we were really struggling, and there was a lot of emotion and anger. And I think, without wanting to say numbers or anything, I think if you ask Matt, who runs the podcast, our numbers then weren't high, because as a team and as a club and as a city, we were down in the doldrums a little bit. We just avoided relegation a couple of seasons in the Championship, one of them staying up on the last day. Like I said, we'd already spent 3 years in League One, and we were under the guidance and ownership of people that we didn't think represented us as a city and as a club. So that's when I first started doing it. And lo and behold, Steve Cooper takes over 2 years last Thursday when we're bottom of the Championship. And it was almost, it's really hard for me to describe it. Anyone in the city will understand me when I say this. It was almost like you'd had a heart defibrillator or something. You'd just woken up from a coma. And you were literally, the momentum we got from his first game to his 6th game to his 10th game. And it's not just about winning, it was a style of football as well. We were playing absolute dross. Anybody listening or watching this, just go watch us under Chris Hooton, the way we were playing. We were bottom of the league, 1 point after 7 games. It was dreadful. Steve Cooper came in with his team and just revitalised not only the club but the city, and with it our podcast, because we started getting people on that were more could see what was happening and were inside the club. So some of the guests that Matt gets are fantastic ex-players, I'd say celebs, but journalists and everybody else around the area that could bring a unique perspective to what was going on. So you had me and a few others as fans that say we haven't felt like this for 20 years. What's going on here? We're playing some good stuff. We are, Steve Cooper's saying the right things in the media. Everybody's getting on board with it. You walk out in Nottingham City Centre, you're seeing more Forest shirts, whereas before you just see Man United and Man City. Like, what is going on here? And this was 2 years ago. And the momentum that he created with his team just turned us into an unstoppable force. And with it, the podcast kind of grew because everybody wanted to talk about Forest. Everybody wanted to listen to some insider knowledge about what was going off at the club and what the manager was saying and what the players were thinking. And it's not stopped from there. So, it culminated in an incredible day at Wembley where we got up. And then from there, you guys know, when you're a Premier League club, you almost become relevant. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way to anybody not Premier League. But, we've done our time. We had 20 years out of the big time. So I know what it's like. But just the amount of attention on you as a fan base and as a team and as a city, it just grows exponentially. So it was literally like if you were graphing it, these people that do Excel, if you were graphing it, it just goes up and up and up and up and up. And it seems to have no ending to it. So we just stayed up last season. God knows what we can achieve this season, because the backing from the owner is incredible financially. You're hard pushed to get a seat down at the City Ground now. When we were in the Championship in League One, you were getting 20, 25,000, but you could always get a seat, for the big games. You could always get a seat. Now you're having to beg, steal and borrow just because the interest in the club is just huge. And that's all down to Steve Cooper and his team. So, yeah, it's like Nottingham now is buzzing. Like Sam, Josh, honestly, I'm not even joking. If you came to Nottingham on a night out, the number one conversation topic around here is Forest. And it has been for 2 years. And it never was that way when I was a kid. So it's just like amazing to see. It's really positive.
Just to flip is just and to have that kind of mirrored rise in the podcast at the same time as what's going on, and that you went on that journey. So I think it's fair to say, and so Josh, I'm sure will back me up, from a neutral's kind of perspective, Nottingham Forest hadn't been around the playoffs. There was no kind of hint, in the previous seasons that Forest were on the verge. They kind of wasn't one on a Premier League supporting team's radar, as you said. And then that kind of turn that season was incredible. I think, as you said, sort of last time in the Premier League was 98, 99 before that, was for the single season. And you mentioned about the few years down in League One and, obviously then back up to the Championship. Did you ever feel Premier League was just a dream, or was it really just with Steve Cooper that you started to see that, hang on, this dream could become a reality?
So we had a few seasons under Billy Davis where we got in the playoffs, but we were a bit flaky, for want of a better. So we'd batter a team 5 or 6-0, and then we'd go and lose to bottom of the league away. So you never really knew which Forest was going to turn up. It was exciting, and Billy Davis, I'm sure you guys, is a character. That's probably the nicest way of putting it. So he very aggressive, and his team mirrored him. So we played a 4-4-2. We always had 2 strikers on the pitch. It was like, we're going to win. We'll win it our way, or we won't win it. And we always got so close, but we never reached the playoff final. So we lost in the semi-final 2 or 3 times. It still pains me now, even to say it. And the time before that was, I think, 2003 under Paul Hart, where we played some beautiful football. And we had players like Michael Dawson in the team, and Andy Reid, and Gareth Williams, David Johnson, Brennan's dad. So this is how long ago I'm talking. So it's been... I would always think that we were the bridesmaid and never the bride. Do you know what I mean? I never thought we'd go up because I didn't think we had enough sustainability about us, or... on our day, we could beat a team, but could we do it over 46 games? Could we get in the top 2? Probably not, because you always had those teams coming down from the Premier League with a lot of money. So even when we had a great start to the season, in January, a West Brom or a Newcastle that were in our League One season, they'd just go and buy the best players, and then you'd slip back down. And if you did get in the playoffs, like I said, you never knew which Forest are going to turn up. So I never thought it would happen again in my life, if I'm honest with you. So And I certainly never thought it'd happen again when you're bottom of the league after 7 games and Steve Cooper turns up. I don't think that'll ever be repeated. Honestly, the closest I've seen to it probably, Michael Carrick took over Borough, didn't he, the other season, and they were struggling, and he got on there or thereabouts, but again couldn't get over the line. Whereas Steve Cooper somehow found a way to take a team that was bottom of the league with 5 loanees that nobody wanted, basically, and gel them into a team that not only got results but played amazing football and took the city with them on that journey. I will say one thing as well, Sam. The playoff final against Huddersfield is the worst game of football you will ever see in your entire life. So nobody watching. But it was a sliding doors moment, because if you look at Huddersfield now, they almost went down the season after. They just lost the manager again. That could have been us. If we, I'm under no illusions that could have been us. So that was a game where if we hadn't have won it, I'd have been on here in 10 years' time saying, we might go up or we might not go up. Do you know what I mean? It was either then or it just wasn't going to happen. And luckily for Forest, it happened. But no, it's crazy. I talk about it with so much kind of passion, but fondness in remembering, because it still seems really unreal to me that we've done it. I'm used to going down to see, I don't know, like I said, Huddersfield on Tuesday night. Now I'm seeing like Arsenal and Chelsea and Man U. I went to Chelsea the other week and we beat them 1-0. What is that about? That is just absolutely bonkers. So, yeah, it's amazing, guys. Honestly, it's like I said, the city's buzzing, the team's evolving, and you can see that every week. And it's just been an amazing 2 years. It really has.
It's such the Steve Cooper turnaround's incredible, really, and it's nice to see. I think that he's been able to remain with you with this journey, and there was some sticky points last season, and the fact they gave him the long contract and they supported him. So nights that, as you said, the fans have gone with the journey. He brought the fans with them, and it's kind of all still that feeling, keeping the city together, sort of going up and doing it. I mean, for people who aren't as familiar with Nottingham Forest, we say, and to who for you are your rival games? Who do you look at as the ones that you're like, we've got to put that to bed?
Oh, in the Premier League, I'm not sure we have any.
So, I was going to say, Premier League's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, historically, our rival was a derby, of course, and it's beautiful to see what's happening at that football club, for want of a better phrase. So let's say we don't play them for a while, and then obviously you've got Leicester. So I think in our first season, our derby was probably Leicester. We got absolutely slaughtered at their place 4-0, but then managed to beat them 2-0 at home. And obviously them getting relegated was delicious for Forest fans. I think for this season, it's probably Sheffield United. I think they're the closest, and there's always been, since the playoff semi-final of 2003, which I talked about earlier with Paul Hart and Neil Warnock teams, and they beat us. That still haunts me to this day. It's probably them. To be honest with you.
Well, we lost you then.
We switched you, I think, from centre mid to left wing there. A quick tactical change mid half.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Tries the technology.
Do you know what it is? It's because I mentioned Neil Warnock. It just goes like
everything goes haywire.
It does. Yeah, so it's probably Sheffield to be honest with you. But we've had a bit of niggle with Wolves, in the last couple of games that we played then. Mm-hmm. You've had a lot of niggle on the pitch, and I think it probably stems from us taking Gibbs-white off them, to be honest with you. I think he's not loved by their fans, and he gives them some back, and then obviously the heat rises in the ground. So I think this season our rivals in terms of derbies are probably Wolves and Sheffield, but in terms of where we want to be, it's certainly the teams that have come up. We need to be better than them, and then you're looking just slightly above us. So at your Brentford's, Crystal Palace, can we be as good as them? Time will tell, but that's kind of what we're aiming to be this season, I think.
Yeah, as you said, the promoted sides are interesting because so far, as we record this at the minute, we're 6 games in and none of them have won. So Burnley and Luton are playing on is it tonight they're playing or tomorrow? I can't remember. It's coming up, isn't it? But there's a potential for one of them, but it has been a very, very difficult start for them. So that probably fills you with more confidence for sure. But coming up from, say, Championship to Premier League, just the type of football, are you seeing a dramatic change? Is it more enjoyable? Is it harder to watch? How are you finding it?
That's a great question. Let me try and explain how we've changed as a club. So under Chris Hughton, we were playing absolute garbage. So that got changed. And then we immediately went to a 3 at the back formation, which suited our players more, gave us more time on the ball. And by all accounts, they've been telling the previous manager that they wanted to play, but he was ignoring them. So Steve Cooper came in with Stephen Reid, who was there already, and turned us into that shape. And we played the rest of the season in that shape. It was very rare that we went to a 4, maybe when we were chasing the odd game. So the squad was built around that shape. You had Jed Spencer, right wing back, who was a revelation. You had Jack Colback or Max Lowe at left wing back. And then you had a group of core players in the middle that were either there before or were brought in on loan, and Lewis grabbing up front. And we basically played that for about 40 games and got promoted. And it was, the more they got used to it, it became a more expansive style. So it became more of a 3-5-2 rather than a 5-3-2. You know, you look at some teams now and they play 3 centre-backs, but it goes straight to a 5, doesn't it? Even from kick-off. And you low block, you can't get out. We didn't do that in the Championship. We genuinely didn't. So that's how we played in the Championship. And then when we started the season, when we went up, we tried to do the same, which I think is what Burnley are finding out now. And Sheffield certainly found it out on Sunday when they got pummeled. Is you can't play the same way. You can't be as open because you give a team a chance in this league, you'll get killed. Like you'll just get killed. So we tried to basically do the same way. And it didn't work. And after, you're testing my knowledge here, maybe sort of 6, 7, 8 games, we were bottom of the league again in the Premier League. And I think we'd won 1 game, but we were shipping in goals. And we weren't just shipping in 2 or 3. We were shipping in 2 or 3 in like 10-minute periods. You know, that you saw the other day with Sheffield, they let him 3, 4. And the game we were doing the same. So there's 1 game where we were 2-0 up against Bournemouth at half time. We lost 3-2. They scored 2 or 3 quick goals in the second half. We did the same against Fulham, where we lost that game 3-2 as well. And it seemed as if 1 bought 2 and sometimes bought 3. And it was like, well, can we play this way? Can you just transition from your team in the Championship and pick it up and pop it in the hardest league in the world? Most of us, including myself, thought we probably could. We're better players. But it soon became apparent that you can't. You need to find different ways to... different solutions. So luckily enough, there was an international break, and I can't remember whether it was the first one or the second one. It might have even been the World Cup. But when we came back from it, we totally changed our outlook on games. So we went to a back 4, and then he had 3 in midfield and 3 up front, which usually became a 4-5-1. And we backed off 10 or 15 yards and just said to teams, go on, then break us down. Because we've got Brennan Johnson, who's absolutely rapid. We've got Taiwo Awoniyi, who, as we've seen this season, is quick. And then we've got a few other players as well who came in, like Danilo, who's quick. And it was like, well, we'll just play on the transition. We'll have 30-35% possession, not worry about possession at all. You try and break us down because we will have 1 or 2 chances during the game, and then we'll try and kill you. And you look at the amount of games we won 1-0 last season. Honestly, after that international break, I can think of about 5 off the top of my head. And that's the way we did it. So we literally just sat in, waited for them to come on to us and broke. It didn't always work. Sometimes we got pummeled, 6 at Man City, 5 at Arsenal, because they're great players, aren't they? It's the best league in the world. But for the teams that we were so open with at the start of the season, we just employed that low block, 4 at the back, 3 tight in midfield, give it to Brennan Johnson, basically, was our tactic. And somehow it got us over the line. But what we couldn't do was keep shipping in the goals. Our goal difference last season was appalling. And if Sheffield keep going the way they're going, they're going to see it this season as well. So it's a hard learning curve. But you have to remember as well, Steve Cooper has never managed in the Premier League. So he's learning on the job as well as the players are. We can talk about the turnover of players. I know Forest were butt of a lot of jokes last season around, signing 30 players. I'll try and articulate why I think that was necessary. Maybe not 30, maybe 20. But everybody was learning on the job. The fans were learning about what to expect and how we play. And I go that with the ownership and the chairman. The manager was learning. The players were learning, loads of new players. And eventually it just clicked after Christmas and we became hard to beat and we became quite exciting on the transition. And most importantly, we started winning some games. And that's what got us over the line just. And what you're seeing now is trying to evolve from that style. You know, sometimes we revert back into that, which you've seen. We've had a horrible start to the season, by the way, in terms of our fixture list. I think 6 of the top 7 clubs away from home in a row. I mean, who's picked that? That's outrageous. Some Derby fan, probably. We're playing that style away, of course, but at home, we're trying to be more expansive with our new players, and you'll see that on telly. I don't know when you can send this out, but we've got Brentford on telly on Tuesday, and you won't see this low block. You'll see probably 3 behind 1, which is what all your mid to top teams play. So it might not work, and he might go back into what he knows, but there was a definitive attempt to try and change our style to be a little bit more attractive this season. I think it's the right thing to do.
I mean, as Sam mentioned earlier, I mean, we didn't see Forest sort of coming up to where they are now. That wasn't something that you could have foreseen when Steve Cooper took over. But I mean, similarly, I mean, I'm going to segue into when Nottingham, just as they got taken over by Mr. Clough, who is a personal hero of mine. I've got to be perfectly honest. So there's going to be a lot of Brian Clough bias from me because I think he's fabulous. Legitimately, as a manager, there was just nobody finer, and I don't think, and we'll touch on this in a little bit, but I don't think there's anybody that has emulated the things that he's achieved since, when you take into consideration the team, the league, the football, and everything. But I mean, the first thing that I thought I wanted to touch on with Clough joining the club, you mentioned earlier about your rivals, the big rivals that Nottingham Forest have, one of them being Derby. And prior to the Leeds fiasco, Brian Clough's big success story was Derby County. He was there for a number of years. He had some good European performances, good performances in the league, trophies that he won. And then he came over to Nottingham, be it, a little sidetrack, to Leeds United. I mean, obviously, I don't think you were there at the time. I don't think, but I mean, was there ever that hostility from fans when people spoke about it? Was there ever that sort of little niggle there at all from a Forest perspective?
Not that I've been told. So I'm far too young for that, Josh. Come on.
I thought so. I did think so, but I'm much younger than I look. I look like I'm about 40, but really I'm 21. So
same goes. So no, not that I've been told, but I think it quickly became evident that he was the right person for us. I mean, there's another school of thought that says, we basically took their manager, then proceeded to win more than they ever have done in their entire history, nor they never will do. So any bad feeling that was there at the start was quickly dispelled because they saw what he brought with his character and his press at the time and the way he interacted with the city. So I met him a couple of times, and his son used to own, not Nigel, his other son, used to own a shop in a place called West Bridgeford, which is near the ground. And I'm quite tall, but not that you'd know. He sat on here, and I walked into his shop, and he said to me, "Oh, I bet you can head a ball, can't you?" And I just went, "Oh!" And it took me about 30 seconds to realise who it was. And by that time, I'd left the shop, and I'm like, "Oh my God, Brian Clough's just talked to me." And that's the kind of reaction that everybody had around the city because there was so much respect and love for him. It was like he was our superstar. He was our mouthpiece. So, and like I said, what he did for the club and the city will never be matched, I don't think, anywhere at all. So even if there was, there's always going to be a couple of people going, "Oh, Derby, what we're taking their manager for?" But I think it was quickly dispelled, and any ill feeling was got over very, very quickly. And he just like Steve Cooper, see, I'm comparing the two now, he transformed our city and our football club. And, going back to Cooper quickly, the fans love him, guys. Seriously, when we're at the bottom of the league, 90 minutes of chanting Steve Cooper. Like, they love him because we've not seen anything like it since Clough was here. Seriously, we've had Frank Clark, we've had a few others that have done great jobs for a short period of time, but to take a club that was on its knees, like Clough did, and now that Cooper's done, and to build it up into something which is really, really special is incredible. And I'm not saying he's got the same amount of love as Brian Clough because he hasn't yet. But if he keeps going, we could have something magical on our hands with him because he's won the fans over completely. He's a god down there. And like I said, I've not seen it since Clough. But yeah, back to Clough, Josh. He's a legend. He's a one-off. You're never going to repeat him.
Yeah, I mean, for people, there might be some people, because you forget about the passage of time. So there are some people that might not be aware of the things that Brian Clough achieved, which I haven't got them written down in front of me, but there are things that I know that he has done. So obviously, Nottingham Forest was I think you could argue they were a small provincial club at that time. I think the big teams now were pretty much the big teams then. Your Manchester United, your Liverpool, and your Arsenal. They were the sort of the big teams. And Nottingham Forest was this team just kicking about the top, bottom, flitting up and down. And over a course of, I forget the years, probably 10 years, I want to say, we managed to take over, get them promoted, hold them in the league, get them beating all the big boys. Not just beating all the big boys, winning the cups, winning trophies, winning the league, and then getting into the European Cup, the equivalent of our Champions League, and winning it not once, but twice consecutively, which, I mean, Real Madrid have achieved that now. And I think that is it. I think they're the only team to have matched that achievement. It could be right if I'm wrong. But the big thing for me is what people don't take into consideration is it was a different time. There was less teams in there. And the European trophy was, this is a bit of a history lesson for the children. European football was much more competitive football at that time, where Holland were big. They had big teams like Ruud Gullit and the likes were making big waves, Jordi Cruyff. Obviously, you had Barcelona, you had Real Madrid. Benfica were consistently sort of reaching the end results, the finals. And Juventus, there was a lot more competition. So to achieve what he did not once, but twice in a league that was much more competitive, much more difficult to get there, and at the time it was much lower down. I don't think people quite comprehend it. I mean, and obviously that was, I believe, in the 70s, I want to say, that the Champions League victories. How long has that legacy lasted, and how long does it carry it through as a Forest fan?
You're asking the right person here, because my what should I call him? Is he family friend? So my wife and I, our family friend is John McGovern, who was the captain of the European Cup before. He came to our wedding.
Wow.
Lovely guy. So anytime I get a chance to talk with him, you got to hear some of the stories he tells me about Brian Clough. Like, he is a truly unique one-off legend that will never be repeated. But yeah, I mean, it's just ingrained into our city. If you come into our city now, right in the centre is a big Brian Clough statue. And I think that tells you everything you need to know about what he means to the city and the football club. But yeah, it was late 70s, 78, 79 and 80 when we went on that run, winning leagues, winning European Cups. And then, as you said, Josh, continued into the 80s and early 90s. We won League Cups, and Simod Cups, taking me back there, Simod Cups. FA Cup final, never won an FA Cup, gutted. But, we played some brilliant football, and it just, everything runs its course, right? So it just got to a stage where we needed to transition, and Cloughy wasn't in the best of health, and obviously it coincided with us spending, other than one jump back in, basically spending 3 decades out of the top league, which is what we did. But those sort of 10, 20, 30 years in the middle there, the 70s, 80s, 90s, peak era for Forest, that absolutely peak era, and brilliant football, trophies, all sorts of stuff, and he's just revered here. He's loved in the city. He's like our dad. For a better friend. I would imagine Man U fans probably think the same about Ferguson. It's probably the closest I could probably put it.
Because it's the power of personality, and on that, I mean, there's always a line that's given: the best manager England never had, and it is a role that he wanted. He did want to become England manager, which could have potentially come at the cost of managing at Nottingham Forest. But it was that personality that stopped him, because he certainly wasn't a yes man. And there's many stories that they have. I mean, you mentioned John McGovern's gave you some stories. Are there any that are your favourite ones that you're allowed to share?
Oh my word! Oh, that's a great. Well, there's something coming to my head that I'm definitely not allowed to share. I think it was. I'm hoping I'm allowed to share this. I'm in trouble if I do. So I remember he told me once that he went into his office, and no, actually, I'll scale it back. His other half, Anne, had said to him, right, go and talk to Cloughy. You're the captain of the side now. You're winning trophies. Your contract's almost up. Go ask for a pay rise. You deserve it. You're the European Cup winning captain. So he said, no, she said to him, whatever you do, make sure you come out with a pay rise. Don't come out with a pay cut, for crying out loud. So he went into Clough's office and he told me he sat down and had a chat. And 10 minutes later, he came out with a 50 quid pay cut. So it was like, it was obvious who ran that football club from top to bottom, right? So I'm really hoping I'm not going to get in trouble for saying that. So that's just a prime example of Clough. And he said, going back to England, there's a great quote about that he didn't get the job because the FA thought he was going to take over, and they were right, and that's what he said. Yeah. He was going to take over. So that's just what he was like. That's were the days when the managers used to run everything, right? So they used to buy. Clough bought some players and didn't even tell the chairman. That's probably, I won't tell you which players. And they just turned up for training. Yeah. And the chairman was like, who are they? And he's like, I've just bought them down. He ran iron fist. I mean, you couldn't do it now, could you? But he ran iron fist that club, and he's that's why he's a legend, because there'll never be anyone else like him.
I mean, I heard that. He had the first £1 million player, which I believe it was at Forest. I want to say Trevor Francis.
You're correct. It was.
I am. That's okay. What the rumours I heard is that the owner wasn't really fully aware that was going to happen either.
Well, I think that wouldn't surprise me, but I think the story around Nottingham is that we didn't actually pay £1 million. We paid £5 less or £1 less because he didn't want to give him that tag. But obviously the press just go with £1 million. But I'm sure I've been told numerous times it wasn't actually £1 million. It was like 999,000, and that's just Clough putting his own stamp on things because he didn't want to be that player to say I bought the first £1 million. But then obviously Trevor Francis scores the winner in the first European Cup final, so it's money well spent, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, I mean, he had such a fabulous eye, sort of working with Peter Taylor, it was, wasn't it? That they sort of worked alongside each other everywhere, apart from Leeds. But I mean, he had an eye, certainly had an eye for a player. And if you read his autobiography, he sort of spots players. Peter Taylor would spot a player, and he'd think, he can work with our system and bring it in. And Brian Clough's motivation would be things like, just pass the ball to him. You can't do this, so when you get the ball, you just pass it over there and do that, give it to him, and he can play. And obviously, he had all these motivational tactics that he had, and he managed to bring the best out of players and brought some good players in. And who do you think is the one that he brought in that he got the most out of, that he really took their career from something that people wouldn't have expected to a status of esteem at Nottingham Forest?
Yeah, there's loads. I mean, obviously, I'm going to refer to John again, John McGovern. I think he was a linchpin in central midfield. Double European Cup winning captain. Didn't represent his country, but excelled at Forest. Is a different story for that. But excelled at Forest, so he got gems from all over because he knew what suited the team, and even the guys that he brought through as well. So we had people like Steve Chettle and Gary Crosby and people like that, who were kids at the time. He threw them into the team, and then they became mainstays. So it wasn't all about him spotting players all over and bringing them in. He was very keen to develop the talent that we had, through the academy and through the local schools as well. But there's so many that he brought. I mean, players like obviously John Robertson, Franz Carr, and players like that. You could go through his different evolution of his teams and always pick out one or two players where people are going, where did you get him from? Like people like Hans van Brooklyn and Johnny Method and players like he gelled them and he moulded them into that team. And weirdly enough, we played very counter-attack that team, which is very much like we played last season for Forest. So there is a history of Forest playing that way, soaking up and hitting on the break with fast midfielders and fast wingers. So it's nothing new. It's again stolen from the Brian Clough playbook, really. But no, I think he was an absolute genius. But I think Peter Taylor alongside him complemented him. Yeah. I think Brian himself. You've read the autobiographies, haven't you, Josh? Brian himself always credited Peter with having that eye. The good cop, bad cop, and he was the one that could spot a player and bring it out. But Clough was the one that always did the contract negotiations and always basically said, "You are signing for us. You're not leaving my house until you sign for us," because that's just the way he was. So between them, they made a phenomenal team. And again, when Peter left, he wasn't the same. And then when he came back, it almost like a spark reignited in him because they just bounced off each other. And I think you probably get that with Steve Cooper and Alan Tate. It'd be interesting to see if Tatey ever left our assistant manager, whether Steve would be the same. I don't know. But you bounce off good people, don't you? Because you have different lenses and you see things differently. And those two, you know, we've got a Brian Clough stand and we've got a Peter Taylor stand. And that tells you everything you need to know.
Well, I mean, I'd strongly recommend anybody to take time out to read the biographies of Brian Clough, of which there are many, and they're all fantastic. I mean, some of the stories that you read, you know, when they had a pitch invasion and Brian tried to clear the fans and punched one of them in the face, and then was forced to apologise to him in front of the press and told him, I think it was something along the lines of, when he come down to give Uncle Brian a kiss. And actually ended up with a fan apologising to him for getting smacked in the face.
Exactly. Can you imagine that happening now? I mean, I know it was a different time back then, but I remember him bringing the fan on to local news around here as well. And they just, because that was national news, they repeated it for local news. And that fan was just not, I wonder who he is now. I wonder if I see him at games. But that fan just looked terrified of him, just in awe. You know, you've just been smacked round the head by the headmaster, the guy that runs this city and this football club. So, you know, you will apologise for being smacked. Do you know what I mean? It's like flipping the thing. That just wouldn't happen now. But that's just testament to the amount of respect that he commanded at that football club. It's just incredible.
I mean, I'm managing a team with Stuart Pearce and Roy Keane and Martin O'Neill, all of those guys in there, and his own son, who went on to actually be quite a remarkable. I think people underestimate and don't appreciate just how many goals that he scored for Forest, because it is quite remarkable. I mean, he had quite a rise. He brought Forest up from, I don't want to be disrespectful, but from a lower level than they had been for a while, up to league winners, European league winners, and obviously as the era started to change, more money came in, and that started to really sort of tell. And unfortunately, you mentioned his sort of health diminished, and if our memory serves, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, and I do apologize if I'm wrong, as his health deteriorated, I think coincided with his final season and a relegation. I think was that in his final season that he had, and it was quite tearful when he left. As a Forest fan, having that person that had given you so much joy and so much happiness and esteem to the city, performances and things that you couldn't have dreamt of, to have then unfortunately see him sort of dwindle away in front of you. And then the last thing he did was a relegation that then almost collapsed the team. I mean, how did that feel as a fan? That must be very difficult to deal with.
Yeah, it was tough, really tough, because I remember it well, actually. And he was, I think, had personal challenges, Cloughie, at the time. And, you know, he wasn't the same effervescent character that he was, you know, all those years ago. The thing is, back in those days, I'm tempted to say it was 92, 93. I might be slightly wrong. Back in those days, they wouldn't have sacked him. He could have done anything because he held such esteem with that club. He was going to walk away on his own terms. Like, they just wouldn't. It's like Sir Alex Ferguson. Man U were never going to sack Sir Alex Ferguson, no matter what. Like, after he got over that initial tough hurdle. And it was the same with Cloughie. So in hindsight, and hindsight's a great thing, no one ever makes any mistakes in hindsight, do they? He should have left a few years before, and we might be slightly different in where we are now as a club, having spent all that time at the big time. But like I said, he was going to go on his own terms, and he stayed. And the year that he left was a sad one, because we were really tough. I think we lost 2-0 at home to Sheffield United on that last day. And it was all over. Was it Grandstand back in the day? God, I'm showing my age now, aren't I? So it was all over that. And you had fans coming on and hugging him. So there was none of that vitriol and anger because we got relegated. It was Cloughie's last game. Oh yeah, we got relegated. Oh okay, yeah, but it's Cloughie's last game. So that took precedent. Now, in hindsight, we probably should have said, hold on, we need to stay up here. But it was a different era back then. And like I said, Clough was, and still is, a god in that city. So, yeah, it was tough. Luckily, we bounced back that season, but it did start, I say yo-yo, it's just been more of a yo. Like, we came back up and went back down, up and down again, and then out of it for 20 years. But it did start our decline, if I'm honest, those last couple of years of of the Clough reign, but that should not diminish what he did for this city and this club, because, like I said, Josh, it's never going to be repeated. I don't care what Man City do or what Man City win, you're never going to do what Clough did, take a team from nothing and do that.
Yeah, and like I said, just with the challenges they had, the league we touched on earlier, he's just remarkable, absolutely remarkable. And again, I would highly recommend anyone, if you want to read a good football autobiography, one of Brian Clough's, you'll legitimately laugh and cry yourself all the way through it. They're superb. But we've got next. Obviously, you've been a Forest fan for some time. Sam's put on here, I think this is a little bit unfair, your all-time Forest 11. Premier League era 92 onwards. So I thought that's missing out an awful lot of good Forest players, because if we're going 92 onwards, this is just off the top of my head. I wrote them down earlier. Peter Shilton, you can't have him. Can't have Peter Shilton. Des Walker, he does account. Nigel Clough, obviously. As you mentioned, McGovern, Kenny Burns, Trevor Francis, they were all before 92. So I think that's really, really mean, but I don't set the rules. This isn't my show today. This is Sam's show. So 92 onwards, there are still some good names in that. So it'll be our all-time Forest 11. You don't have to embellish on all of them, because we'll keep you here all evening otherwise. If you were to go through your all-time Forest 11, what were the names you'd be throwing out there?
Sure, lovely. So this is from 92 onwards. So just to remind everybody, we spent a couple of seasons in the Premier League yo-yoing and then disappeared for 20 years into the wilderness. So you're going to get the vast majority of players from that sort of like late 90s era. Hopefully most people have heard of them. So I'll go through the team quickly and then maybe just talk just a little bit about one or two of them. So I would probably have Mark Crosley in there, for those that remember him. Big Norm, brilliant player. Left back, you mentioned him earlier, Josh, Stuart Pearce. I'm playing a 4-4-2 because, like I said, historically, Forest just play 4-4-2, right? That's kind of what we do. So we'll go Stuart Pearce, left back. Centre backs, no, actually, let me do right back first. Right back, Des Little, very much so. Centre backs, I think I went with. Who did I go with? I think I did go with Des Walker, because he did play in the Premier League. Well, he played in like 92, that counts, right?
Yeah, he had like 2 years or something after 92, didn't he? As an old man.
Yeah. And I've just thought of another player, so I might change to a back three. So let's just have them as a three, right? And then in the 5 in midfield, I think I'm probably going to go, or 4 in midfield. Andy Reid, of course. Everybody knows Andy Reid, right? Ireland left winger, beautiful left foot. On the right-hand side, probably Steve Stone. So he's Sean Dyche's, one of Sean Dyche's assistants now. Brilliant player for Forest, he was, in the England 96 squad. Not sure he kicked a ball in that tournament, but he was definitely in the squad. Midfield, I would have a guy called Lars Bohinen, if anybody remembers him. Norwegian midfielder, went to Blackburn for a lot of money. He was a great player. And then I'd have Roy Keane, of course. Everybody knows Keane.
I was almost nervous you were going to leave him out for a minute.
No chance. No, Keane, I think, played 1 season in the Premier League for us. And then when we got relegated, one of the last things Cloughy said to Frank Clark was, and this is a well-known story, whatever you do, don't sell Roy Keane. That's what he said to him. And then within a couple of weeks, he'd sold Roy Keane for like £3.5 million, which was a lot of money at the time. Although we did reinvest it and come back up, so I don't know what I'm complaining about. So I'll have those 4 in midfield. And then probably my front 3, because I've changed my formation, would be a guy called Brian Roy, who was in the Dutch squad in 98, I think. He played up front with another one of my picks, which is Stan Collymore. Everybody must know Stan, right? And then I'd top my team off by playing a guy that still polarises Forest fans, because he went on strike in the season we're in the Premier League, which is Pierre van Hooijdonk. So he scored 30 goals in the Championship, some of the maddest goals I've ever seen. I think he scored about 10 free kicks. He was like ridiculous. And then he came to the Premier League and went on strike because we'd sold his strike partner, Kevin Campbell, to Turkey. So he was just like, well, I'm not playing. So he went on strike. And can you imagine, in fact, that's kind of happening now, isn't it, with a few people? But back in the day, that was kind of unheard of in like 98. What do you mean he's gone on strike? Right? What? But he came back in January. He scored some goals but couldn't keep us up. But those three, Collymore, Roy and Van Hooijdonk, blimey, there's some goals in them. So that would probably be my Forest 11. The shape sounds a bit off. You won't play Pearce as a centre back, but I've gone with that just to get Brian Roy in. So there we go.
No Jason Lee? He had the best hair I've ever seen.
Super sub, mate. Get him on with 20 minutes to get when we're 1-0 down.
He was just my pineapple hair. That was just the eternal memory that I had. Him and Stan the Man Collymore.
Stan Collymore, by the way. So I always thought he always looked large on the television. You could tell he was a tall striker. I bumped into him at St Mary's once. I think he was doing TalkSport or something, and I wasn't looking where I was going, and I walked into this guy I can only describe as big as the ceiling. He was absolutely massive, Stan Collymore. Such a physical being and such a quality striker.
He was amazing for us. Honestly, I mean, we sold him for a British record transfer fee, I think about £8.5 million to Liverpool. And him and Robbie Fowler up front for Liverpool were great. But it built our Trent end, our new Trent end. Literally, that money built our Trent end. So it used to thank for that stand behind the goal. So, not only did he send us up that year and got us into Europe, and we had a great European run in the UEFA Cup. I think we got to the quarters. He then went for a British transfer fee and built our stand. So you can't grumble at that, can you?
You could call it a stand instead of a stand. There you go. The Trent stand.
Yeah.
It's late. You got to chuck one in.
Oh dear.
Yes, I'll take it back. So we did touch very quickly on. So we'll go to the promotion leading up to the Premier League and get on to what sort of happened. So we'll start with obviously going back to the 21-22 promotion, as we said, a massive turnaround of the season. You had Chris Hughton and things were looking terrible, and then Steve Cooper came in and it was something else. I mean, what were the key things really that Steve Cooper changed in those early periods to get you guys really rolling?
He just got everybody back on side. So, the game that Chris Hughton got sacked in after we lost 2-0 to Middlesbrough. And I remember being in the pub beforehand, talking to some Borough fans, and they said to us, "Oh, we're really bad. Mikey, we're really bad." And I said, "Have you seen Forest? Like, honestly, if you think you're bad." And we lost that game 2-0 and we were pathetic. And he was sacked within 24 hours. And Steve Cooper came in. And I think we had one game with Stephen Reid in charge, which we won at Huddersfield as a caretaker. And then Steve Cooper came in on the 21st of September. See, the date's ingrained in my head, 2001. And right from the start, we didn't win the first game, but right from the start, he got everyone back on side. So he's a bit of a PR master. So his interviews were really positive, really all about, we're going to take it game by game. I know what Forest means. I get it. I understand the club. I'm going to bring all the ex-players back. Like, I think John tells me, John McGovern, that Steve invited him to training every day. So it was like, I'm not going to be afraid of our history. I'm going to embrace it. And I'm going to take all this knowledge and all the people that understand the club more than I do. I'm talking to Steve Cooper now, more than I do at this point. And I'm going to take all that wealth of knowledge and I'm going to, first off, get us out of the mud because we were bottom of the league. And then we'll just see where it goes. But quite quickly, you saw a team evolving and you saw players that had the head in the ground, crap body language, crap body language. People like Jed Spence that there's a player in there but just wasn't cutting it. All of a sudden, head up, sprinting, smile on the face. And it just was momentum. I mean, there were certain games where we robbed a team, like we were 1-0 down at Bristol City going into injury time and 1-2-1. When that happens, you're thinking, hold on, is something going on here. Yeah. And we just literally just took it bit by bit. And Steve Cooper was such a PR master that he brought the fans along on that journey with him to the state where when we got to the end of the season, we were pushing for automatics, which was mad, if you think about it. Absolutely mad. We just missed out on that, but we managed to scrape through in the playoffs, which was incredible. But he changed everything. Like, he just changed the feeling around the stadium and the ground, and everybody just had smiles on their faces. And he started it before we even started winning games, just by what he was saying. Instead of the dour excuse making, it was like, no, there's some good players here, and I understand what Forest means, and I get it. And we're going to try and pass the ball, and we're going to play a striker, and we're going to have a shot. which we weren't doing. No, just like the basics. We went to Stoke and had no shots on goal. No, we had no shots permanent, none. And Chris Newton came out and said it was a good performance. So if you say that to a team like a club like Forest, you're doomed. So granted, he had a low bar from which to build, but he built really quickly. And like I said, it just gained momentum throughout the season to the end where we were an unstoppable force. And I genuinely believed from about March that we were going to get promoted. I just think, who's going to stop us? We're just on fire. And it was all, Cooper was at the helm. He was driving the narrative, and with it brought success. And it's just an incredible journey. Just mad. It's mad to even think about it now.
It's skyrocketed through your playoff final win over Huddersfield, which I think, as you said, wasn't the greatest game you've ever seen, but they're always a tense occasion anyway. The playoff finals, and you got over the line, and mad celebrations ensue, and all of that. So, I mean, I saw a very positive time for you. Take us back to how you're feeling straight after the playoff final, and then realising we're going in the Premier League next when it comes back in August.
Right, I'll be honest with you guys then. Right, so the plan was to get an early train down to London and have a load of beer. And if the worst happens, it doesn't matter because we've got to see our team at Wembley, right? So that was the plan. It quickly became apparent that the train queues at Nottingham, we ain't going to get on a train, even though we booked a seat. So I became the designated driver. So I am... I know, crazy. First football game I've been sober for a while. So I watched the game stone cold sober, and from about 70 minutes, people around me were crying. Seriously, my wife was crying next to me. People were like crying and shaking. I said to my wife, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "We're 20 minutes away from getting promoted." I was like, "Yeah, a lot can happen in 20 minutes." And she's like, "Yeah, but we are so close." And as it went down and down, there was 6 minutes injury time, which felt like the longest 6 minutes ever. As soon as that final whistle went, the outpouring of emotion in that ground was, I've never seen or felt anything like it. There was more people crying than there weren't crying, if you know what I mean. There was literally people hugging, weeping, grown men, like in tears. It was just like, because it was almost like, well, this is brilliant from Cooper, but history tells us that we'll just slip up because that's what Forest do. We haven't been in the top flight for 20 years. Well, we'll find a way to slip up. And to get over the line, it was just incredible. And then the city was like, my God, it was like a party city. It just didn't shut down for like days and weeks. They had the parade the next day. I drove back from Wembley because I was sober, just super calm. But I was looking at my wife next to me and my mate in the back. They were like shaking, like, has it just really happened? I was like, yes, we've just won 1-0. So it was just like totally, nobody could believe it. Nobody could honestly believe it. And it took a while for it to sink in. It kind of still has, but that's like, that day will never be topped. And regardless of what happened to us last season, even if it would have gone down, I wouldn't have changed it for the world. It was amazing. It's the best way to go up in it, winning the playoffs. Dear me.
Yeah, 100%. Everyone we've spoken to who's had that playoff, it's just such an unbelievable feel. I've been to a couple as a neutral as well. I managed to get to the League One, League Two playoff, and it's just to see the emotions of everything in whole season coming down to a 90 minutes. Sometimes not just a season, as you said, 2 decades for you that comes down to 90 minutes, and to then get over the line, it's an unbelievable emotion that only the playoffs can really derive. Of course, brought you back to the Premier League, and as you said, last season was you kind of sort of figured things out as the season went on, and Forest did become sort of stronger, and you had a strong final 4 games that was really key, I think, in terms of your survival. So 16th you finished overall. What did survival mean, and was there a point where you thought, I think we'll stay up, or was you kind of nails bit to the end?
Really good question. There was lots of points where I thought we'd go down. So I remember when we lost 2-1 at Leeds, and it was a relegation 9-pointer, if there was, never mind a 6-pointer, and we got beat. And I wasn't at that game because I was working, but all my mates rang me and said they're celebrating like they're going to stay up, basically saying and they thought it could even spell the end of Cooper, because our owner is very ambitious, but thankfully stuck with him. Thankfully, so there was lots of points in the season where I really worried, and like you said, Sam. we just seemed to get on a roll. I think we went something like 8 games unbeaten after an 11-game winless streak, something like that. So it was the sublime to the ridiculous. And in that streak where we picked up some good points, we faced some really tough teams. We got a point at Chelsea. We beat Arsenal at home, and we got a couple of 1-0s as well, I seem to remember. So really tight games, like there's nothing in it. I think we only won by more than 1 goal twice maybe in the season. So it was nails bitten right to the end. But I tell you what, and I'll be honest with you, you know when Arsenal blew the title, can I say that?
You can 100% say that, yeah.
we kind of did.
We enjoyed that.
Yeah, walking away with it. When it became apparent that they weren't going to win it, right, and I knew they had us, I was saying to everybody, this is the ideal time to play them because they kind of know they've blown it, right? So if we can go 1-0 up somehow, we'll just sit back and just frustrate them. And do they have the 14 or intestinal fortitude to try and get through us, knowing that even if they do, they probably lost it? And sure enough, we went 1-0 up. It's a great atmosphere. And then we just sat there in that low block and said, come on then, break us down. And they didn't have a clue because they'd just gone, hadn't they, by that time. They knew that the league was over. If we'd have played them a month ago, they probably would have beat us 4-1. But it was the ideal time to play them. And just before that, Everton had not won at Brighton. So everybody knew if we can win that game, we'll stay up. And everybody knew it. And it was just like, I talked about the momentum that we had in the Championship. I walked into that ground and everybody was like, we're going to do this. Because they're on their knees because they've just got so close, but they've not got anything. And we know that if we produce today, we're up. And we don't have to worry about the last day or anything like that. But we were on such good form then. We were playing the best stuff that we played all season. So I was weirdly confident. But those last 10 minutes were really long. Really long. But we did great. I mean, they just got over the line, and that's what it's all about. And you just got to stay up in your first season somehow. That's all you've got to do. Spend, one place above the relegation zone. That's all you need for the first season.
This is it. Make yourself and then establish yourself from there. It's always the base. I mean, did you feel, because we did an interesting talking to a Luton fan before the start of the season. Obviously, they just came up kind of unexpected from their side as well, coming through. How did you feel coming into the Premier League? Did you feel you were kind of being written off by a lot of people in terms of, Forest have come up, they're not ready? And then when you bought a lot of players, did you feel that was kind of the sense from other fans of other clubs or just generally in the Premier League?
Yeah, we were. There was a couple of things. We were favourites to go down on every betting site that I saw, like mega favourites to go down. There was a lack of understanding from outside of Nottingham as to why we bought all those players. But anybody that watched Forest would know that our squad, our team in the Championship was made up of 5 loanees who all went back. And then a lot of players got released. And in pre-season, we were playing the kids up until a week before. Like we had two midfielders, they're in non-league now. Like we didn't have any players. I know 30 is a lot. Maybe we went slightly over the top, but we literally didn't have a team. So, there was a huge rebuilding job, and everybody in the city knew that. But then, because we'd not been in the top flight for such a long time, there was an unknown and an anticipation about how we'd go and do it. Would we just do what like Burnley have done and just splash 100 million quid and, in the first transfer window and see where it gets us, build a whole new team, or would we be a bit more circumspect and a bit more relaxed with our transfers, like maybe Sheffield and Luton have done. And I think we kind of initially tried the latter and then realised we need to buy more players. So we went mad, basically, and just bought a lot to try and beef up that squad. But I think the view, I think, from outside of Forest circles was that we'll struggle unless we totally reform probably the way we play and also our squad, and we had to do it. And do you know what? Proof's in the pudding. We stayed up somehow. So, fair play to everybody who made that decision, and for the owner to back us with that amount of money. We've had to sell our best player this year to balance the books. Brennan's gone to Tottenham, but we had to do that. So, right decisions for me, and I'm just glad we proved a lot of people wrong. Because I think Forest is. I think when you've. These clubs that just go up and down and you see them all the time and you're like, oh, a bit boring. Forest hadn't been in there for such a long time. I think a lot of neutrals were quite keen to see what we'd bring. And I think our atmosphere at home is pretty good. in comparison to a lot. So hopefully we added we did the Premier League proud, and we kind of held our own last season, and hopefully it will continue this season.
No, I think you're right in that people did want to see what they were going to bring. And I think, as we touched on earlier, that's because the legacy that Clough built made Forest the team that people wanted to have. And I think everybody's guilty pleasure of who they wanted to stay up. Certainly myself. But I mean, you mentioned the transfer window. I mean, they did go a little bit silly, but in and amongst that, there were some gems that were signed. And obviously, you picked up Morgan Gibbs-white, and you've got a tune out to them. Your striker, whose name I just can't say. How do I say that correctly? So I just don't sound like a buffoon.
I call him Awaniyi, but a lot of people have been calling him Awoniyi now, which I think is probably the right thing. So I've probably been saying it wrong. I think it's Awoniyi. Yeah.
That's what I've heard. I mean, he obviously came from Union Berlin. He's quite a good one. I mean, you've got Nico Williams obviously come in because he's Welsh, so I'm going to big him up as well. So there wasn't just there was a lot of players. I tell you, there's some I didn't realise. I'm just looking through the list because there's so many. I was never going to know this off the top of my head. Jesse Lingard that you got in as well. Wayne Hennessy again because he's Welsh. Now I'm sure I saw in here. Keelan Navas obviously was. Interested signing. I'm just looking through. I might have been looking at something completely crazy. John Joe Shelby. Did I see that? Has he played?
Oh dear, can of worms. So yeah, he signed right at the end of the January transfer window. Played a couple of games. He was terrible. I'm choosing my words carefully, and fell out with Cooper, and has been sort of training with the bomb squad, so to speak, and he's now gone on loan to Turkey, I think. So that was a disaster, that one.
I was going to say that I saw his name there, I thought, no, that doesn't ring any bells to me. I mean, but did you feel, when it was happening at the time, and you just saw like, there's a name, oh, there's another name, oh, there's another name, and how many can we register in a season? Was there a point that you got a little bit nervous, or were you content with the fact that they were investing, or did it start to feel like, God, are they just going a bit mental here, and this is going to create some sort of imbalance in the squad? Or
do you know what it is? Right, so our owner, Mr. Marinakis, owns Olympiakos as well. So if anybody's listening to this, Google Greek football, Google what Olympiakos do in their transfer windows. They love buying players, right? They love it. So everybody knew that we were going to be active, should I say, in the transfer market. And like I said before, Josh, we had to be because we didn't have a team.
Yeah.
Whether we went overboard, I think, honest hand on heart, yeah, we went a bit overboard. You've seen it again this season where I think we were the most active club in the last transfer window. I think we bought 13 players. So there's always going to be that turnaround of players at Forest just because that's kind of what we do, if I'm honest. And it'll probably be the same in January as well. The key thing is the quality of the player that we're getting in.
Yeah.
I don't mind getting 30 as long as 25 of them are good. you can take the odd John Joe Shelby if you're getting in a gibbs-white or someone.
That's
like
a good descriptive word, odd John Joe Shelby.
It's true, but we had to do it, Josh, and I think it's I think what I'd really love to see now, honestly, is for us to be a little bit more stable and maybe just do 3 or 4. But honestly, is it going to happen? No, because it's Forest. We'll do it again in January, and then we'll do it again. And Steve Cooper to integrate all these players. I don't know
effort.
What everybody does for a living is kind of listening or watching this, but anyone that manages people, when you get 1 or 2 in, it's hard. You get 30 in. How on earth do you do that and get a tune out of them? So it shows you what an incredible job he's done, that he's managed to get a tune out of the vast majority and keep us up. He's got another 13, I think, this transfer window. So
I remember it must have been a bit like they were sitting down having lunch thinking, oh, this just must be like a new cleaner or something, because he can't be another player for the squad, surely to God. But it is, I mean, I was upset that you had to get rid of Brennan Johnson. Again, as a Welshman, that upset me. And he's gone to Spurs, which is where young Welsh players go to die, basically. Do you have confidence? I mean, we'll come back on to Forest in a moment, but do you have confidence that he's going to be allowed to succeed there? Do you think he's going to be the one that's sort of the exception that proves the rule?
Yeah, I think he'll be all right, actually. I know what you're saying. I know historic, because you look on what's happened previous, right? And I get that. But I think I'd have rather him gone to Tottenham now that Harry Kane's gone and who they've got as manager. he started the North London derby the other day, and he'll be good for them the way they want to play, quick, transition, fast transition. He's perfect for them. I'd have rather him gone there than to a Brentford or somewhere like that. I've not much love for Brentford, but I'd rather him go to Tottenham because I think they're a huge club, incredible stadium, great stadium that is. So he's going to be playing in a theatre, and I think he'll do just fine. And it worked for both parties because we've got a lot of money for him, keeps us on the right side of financial fair play, and allows us to spend on another 15 players in the next transfer window. So it'll be fine. Don't worry, Josh. He'll be all right because he'll get a load of football at Tottenham. He'll be fine.
I'm unnerved. It unnerves me. They just destroy Welsh players there. But I mean, obviously, so this window, you mentioned again another raft of signings, but some. Again, you mentioned quality coming in. I mean, the ones that sort of stood out for me, obviously, you've got Callum Hudson-Odoi, who we've seemed to get a game out of. Ibrahim Sangare, who I love. What a machine. And then smart signings like Omar Damabelli, Anthony Alanga, and there was one more that stood out. Obviously, as a Liverpool fan, Divock Origi. There are names too many that I'm going to that I can mention. Who stands out for you? Are there any sort of stars in those signings that you think are really going to complement and play a lot this season, or are they just bodies? Do you think?
Yeah, no. There's a couple. I'm glad you pinpointed those because they were on my hit list as well. So I think Sangare is obviously a hell of a player, and once he settles in, he will allow us to play that more expansive football that I was talking about.
He is a machine, isn't he? I mean, I speak with one of the former Tifo guys quite a lot, and he's always been one of his favourites to go somewhere. Every transfer window, he's had a sensible transfer. When Sangare go in, someone needs to sign him.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant we got him, and we couldn't have done that had we not sold Brennan. So, sometimes you have to take a step back, take a few forward. So him, obviously, what I really like as well is if we're going to play a back five away from home, we need to look at centre-back. So we've got a couple that are coming to the end of their contract. So Willy Bolly, Scott McKenna, Joe Orr's just signed a new contract. But there's a feeling around Nottingham, around Forest, that centre-back position will evolve over the next year. And what we've done is we've bought two centre-backs. You mentioned one of them that I can't pronounce his name, the lad from Norwich.
Omar Damabelli.
That's him. We bought him. And we bought a guy called Murillo, who is 19 and looks an absolute beast. Like the size of him is just unreal. So it's almost like we're future planning for end of the season, which Forest never do. Forest are all about
because Omar Damabelli, he's like 21, 22, something like that.
Yeah. So it's brilliant. So I'm really enthused by that. There's a bit of foresight going on there, and sometimes Forest aren't great at that. So. Yes, we've got in Origas and Sangaris to make us better in the short term, but that planning for long-term evolution of the back line was really encouraging to me and shows that they've thought about it beyond, further than their nose, which is good. And gives me hope that, if we stay up this season, which hopefully we will do, we've got players to come in after 6 months being around the team that are young players with a high ceiling. Because Forest, right, everybody's a selling club apart from the top few, right? So if one or two of them break into the team, and you've seen it with Danilo last season, chances are we'll sell them for a big profit, and that's what we need to do. It's the food chain. So gives me a lot of hope that our signings aren't just a quick fix; they're more long term now.
Yeah, and as I said, I mean, Callum Hudson-Odoi, the fact that you signed him so cheap, a couple of million quid, after Chelsea just ruined him. If you could get him playing, that would just. It would make me so happy. I could eat it. It would just be absolutely beautiful. But I mean, you mentioned, so because of these players coming in, there's been a slight evolution of style. They're going to try and change things up to try and stay at this league. If you had to pick one player from the squad, all the signings that you've made, all the players that were already there last season, if there was one player that you think is going to be the one to keep an eye out for, that is going to be your difference maker, who would you pick?
John Joe Shelton. No, I'm joking. I won't be John Joe Shelton. I'd pick Morgan Gibbs-white. Let me tell you why. He is Cooper's man. Right, this team is built around Morgan Gibbs-white, so he will never get. Even if he's got one leg, he won't get dropped. Right, he loves him. He's his man. So the idea of these signings is to get him on the ball more. So whereas we've been playing him wide in our first season, you'll now see him in the centre, and that is by design. So, you know, a lot of people scoffed when we paid the amount of money that we paid for him. But let's be honest, if he has a good season this season and he's still young and he's English, he could well break into that England side, you know, because he was a regular for the under-21s. And like I say, the side's being built around him. And he's the main man. This is his team, right? Make no bones about that. Everything goes through him. So he was Cooper's man. He was the one Cooper wanted. He got him. And now he's building the side around him. So expect him to be a mainstay at Forest for as long as Cooper's there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he's a very exciting young player that's come through. I mean, we did an interview, didn't we, Josh, with Darren Ryan, the head of youth development at Wolves, who'd been with Morgan Gibbs-White since very young, and said he's the best player that he'd seen come through that, and to see him move on. And, you know, couldn't speak high enough of Morgan, even when he left Wolves, you know, as a quality player. So the fact that you're seeing it and building around him is probably no surprise to him at all, having seen what he saw in his development. So before we get to the final piece of our interview with you, which does involve a little fun game that we have, the big question, of course, is where do Nottingham Forest finish this? Where do you think they finish? Where do you want to finish? And are they the same thing?
Oh, what a question. So at the start of the season, I predicted we'd finish 15th, which is one place above where we finished last season. That was before the crazy deadline day where we bought in those players that you talked about earlier, Josh. So I revised my prediction, and I think I said 13th. So I think if you ask any like-minded Forest fan that thinks a little bit with their head and not so much with the heart, you know, some people go, "Oh, we're going to push for Europe." We're not going to push for Europe. Don't be silly, right? I think you got to look at your competition, those teams that have come up, and you've got to look at where our aspirations are for our next logical step in our evolution. And I think it's to push the teams like Brentford and like Crystal Palace and teams like that. Palace are perennial 12th finishers. And I think if we can push somewhere, they always finish 12th, right? Pretty much. So as long as we can push somewhere towards there, I think if you said to any Forest fan, you finish between 12th and 15th or 12th and 14th, in that area, no worries of relegation, they bite your hand off. And I think that's kind of where we should be targeting.
Well, I was just going to add in this, at the start of the season, we did a special predictions show on the Premier League. So I can give you what we predicted as a podcast. We did our own individual ones. Now, you'll be pleased to know that Sam predicted Forest would finish 17th. So he's got you safe. Lucas predicted you to finish in 16th position. Likewise, I also predicted you in 16th position. I think we had Billy. He predicted you in 17th. Well, and this is where it changes slightly. Sakira, our Everton fan, predicted Forest in 18th position.
Of course.
And Charlotte, everybody's favourite, everybody thinks she's such a sweetheart and she's so lovely, has Forest in at 19th. So remember that one.
Well, I've got a message for Charlotte. No, I'm joking. But
so I'm sorry to drop him in it. I know. Well, you know what? That's the majority of us think that you're all going to be safe. So we're all sort of on the same wavelength there.
But that's good. I'll take that. You know, anything above that relegation zone is fine. But I think logically, you know, our own is very ambitious, and I think if we're struggling, he might have to buy another 30 players because you know what he's like. But I think we'll be all right, guys. I think we'll be fine. That transfer window was insane for us, best one we've ever had. So I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, definitely. And I think having seen what I've seen of you so far, as you said, that really tough away start that you had. I mean, you've already been to Arsenal, you've been to Manchester United, to City. I was going to say Chelsea, but everyone's beating Chelsea this season.
Yeah, that means nothing anymore. That's gone.
But I mean, very good performances, sort of all three of those places, and that was before, say, the transfer window as well with some of those. So yeah, from what I've seen so far, it'll be interesting to see where you end up for sure. But before we let you go, because we have kept you for quite a period, we'll play our game where there was only one question that we want to ask, and we have a little intro into this game, and then we will tell you what it's all about when we get in. So this is absolutely or absolutely not.
The question with only two answers: absolutely or absolutely not.
Absolutely.
No. Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely. Absolutely not me. Rah. Rah. Absolutely. You yes, absolutely.
Absolutely not.
So here it comes, the question with only two answers, absolutely or absolutely not.
There we are. Production. If you wondered who Charlotte was, there you go. There's her in many formats in the video, the introduction.
It just tickles me every time.
It does. I almost forget it's coming. It was like, oh yeah, I did that. I remember doing that. It is the question we like to ask our guests: absolutely or absolutely not. So what we've done, it's a bit difficult because of the time of season that we're at. Because obviously the transfer window was just shut. But we're going to ask you, six players in your squad, whether absolutely you keep them or absolutely not. It's time to bin them, and off they go. If you want to keep them all, that's fine. Josh will pick a couple because otherwise the end of the game doesn't work. But that's not a problem at all. So we
Please
will
get rid of
chuck in.
some.
Yes, we will chuck in straight off the bat. So first off, Mangala, absolutely or absolutely not?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, he's a keeper. He will remain. One of your new signings. Chris Wood, absolutely or absolutely not?
Oh, this is tough. I'm going to say absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So Wood is on the move. You're saying note that one down, Josh. Wood is going to get a move. Wayne Hennessy, absolutely or absolutely not?
Oh, Josh has put this in, hasn't he? Absolutely not. Sorry, Josh.
Oh, Hennessy, but he might get a move, Josh. He might get a move to one of your favourites. He might be all right. Yates, absolutely or absolutely not?
Absolutely. Heartbeat of the team.
Heartbeat of the team. Yates remains. We mentioned him earlier. Willy Bolly, absolutely or absolutely not?
I'm going to say absolutely for him. He's been great.
Absolutely, Willy Bolly remains. And finally up, we've got, it doesn't have a squad number, so Harry Arter, absolutely or absolutely
He's
not?
not going.
Have a guess what I'm going to say. Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. It's time for Arter to move on. If you've got no squad number, your writing's kind of on the wall.
Yeah.
So, of course, we will now move to. These players are going to move, but we have to find out where they're going to move to, of course. That's the fun of the transfer window. So, we'll get ready. We've got a number of ways. So, who have we got first up, Josh? Who was first on the list? Was it Chris Wood? Chris Wood.
Mr. Wood.
So let's spin. Where is Chris Wood going to go on the wheel? His transfer, he's off to. Oh, he's down. He's going to see Charlotte. It's Rochdale for Chris Wood. It's non-league football for Wood.
Oh,
I think he'd suit that.
nice.
She'd be quite happy, I think, with Chris Wood and Ian Henderson up front. She'd be well pleased with
He
that.
strikes me as a sort of Rochdale player.
Yeah,
Big and
it's all in the air. Be fine.
Does indeed. So next up, I think we had Wayne Hennessy, didn't
It
we?
was
Legendary
Wayne.
Welsh goalkeeper. Wayne Hennessy. Where is Hennessy off
Come
to
on.
his
Union
transfer
Berlin.
move? He's almost Union Berlin. It was so tight.
He's
So
so
tight. No, he's off to Scotland. It's Partick Thistle for Wayne Hennessy.
I would have loved him at pod favourite Union Berlin. That would have been beautiful.
It would have been a lovely move for him. Not to be, unfortunately. And finally, Harry Arter is off to.
It's a big team. It's going to be a really big team.
It's going to be a massive one. He's off to Stockport. Harry Arter. To League Two, Claire will be happy. He is off to Stockport. And that is, of course, absolutely or absolutely not. And there we go. I do have one final question, which is a Charlotte question. She did want to ask this. This was one she was very important out. She's a Rochdale fan, as we mentioned. She's at Rochdale today. I'm very excited because someone who's there reporting on that is a Grant Holt. She wanted to get your take on what you think about Grant Holt. What's your opinions on Grant Holt for Charlotte?
Grant, yeah, I liked him. So he was Gary Megson bought him for us, and in his press conference, Gary Megson said, and I quote, "He's a rough diamond, and I want to keep him rough." Now, that to me means I don't want him to improve. What he did was he started playing him on the wing. Like Grant Holt was a winger.
Wow.
So he was great for us when we played him up front, but he played on the wing, and then we sold him, and then he scored a load of goals for a load of other teams, including Norwich. and then sort of superseded us. So it probably says more about Gary Megson. But in terms of Grant Holt, I liked him. He worked really hard. He's a big lad. He's certainly not a winger. So was it Charlotte? You can tell her, yeah, we agree on that one. Yeah, Grant Holt's a good player.
But he's kept rough.
Keep him rough.
Improve.
A rough diamond for life, that one. So thank you so much for coming on, Mikey. We absolutely love talking to you about Nottingham Forest. Thank you for giving us our time. We're so very appreciative. Of course, do check out the Garibaldi Red Podcast. And so where can everybody find the podcast yourself, Mikey? Tell everybody where to find you.
Yeah, it's on all your platforms. So YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, all your normal stuff. We tend to do 2 a week. We'll do one on Monday reviewing the weekend's game, and then usually a preview show on a Thursday. And the podcast is basically a couple of fans like myself, and then people or players that have played for Forest, local journalists, people that really have an inside intel of the club. So it's really interesting. Listen, it's a little bit like this. It's quite relaxed, quite a good chat, and we tend to sort of keep things on a level, even when we get beat 6-0. So please check us out, and really appreciate it. And thanks for asking me on, Sam and Josh. I've really enjoyed it. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, very welcome. Do absolutely check those guys out. A fantastic podcast. So do show them all your love. And of course, if you're new to our channel or want to check us out, of course, we are in a number of places which we now have a slide for because everything is slightly different everywhere. If you want to check us out on Twitter or X, as it's now known, we are at Absolute Ball Pod. On YouTube, Absolute Football Podcast. On Twitch, we're the Absolute Football Podcast as well. On TikTok, it's at Absolute Football Pod. Instagram and Threads, sometimes we're still working it out, I think, like everybody else. Absolute Football Podcast _ and on Facebook, the Absolute Football Podcast. We do a Premier League show live on a Monday, and we do a lower league show on a Thursday live as well. We do enjoy. Come and join us in the chat on YouTube and Twitch. We like a bit of back and forth, and then just keep an eye out on the channel for episodes like this where we get to speak to fantastic people like Mikey. So thanks everybody for being a part of it. Thanks as well to Josh. Josh, of course, I get to play you out as well as introduce you. How exciting!
Look at that! What a wonderful time. Thank you so much, Sam. You're such a wonderful man, and Mikey, thank you for joining us as well. It's been fantastic.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
It's been excellent. So all it is to say now is say fantastic. Thank you all for joining us, and we will catch you on the next one. Take care of yourselves.